Hello, welcome along to Bangkok ChitChat Regional Report. In just a moment, we're going to be going down to Pattaya, see what the latest is from there. But first of all, Andrew, how you diddling?
Diddling, okay. All right.
Ken Dodd. Don't you ever remember Ken Dodd? Hi, diddly. No. Okay, go on.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, everything's okay. The studio is up and running. It's a little bit of a makeover. So we're getting bookings for that just now. So yeah, I'm fine.
And I've had a couple of voiceover work come in as well, or going to come in. So it looks like voiceover studios are beginning to pick up, which is, hey, we need the money. So it's nice for it to start coming back.
Yeah, that's great. That's good.
Yeah.
So
all right then. Yeah, let's like to welcome Craig. He's going to be providing us, hopefully, with some regular reports on what is happening in Pattaya and also the Rayong area. Craig runs wealth management and insurance brokerages with a focus on helping expats looking to retire in Thailand. Welcome to the chat, Mr. Craig.
Yeah.
Good morning, gents. How are we doing?
Right, a little bit. Yeah, a bit of the rabbit in the headlights there for a moment. Craig, can you briefly just tell us about you're in Pattaya, what you're doing, how long you've been there, sort of, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got a health insurance brokerage and a wealth management brokerage, and I split my time between Pattaya and Bangkok, but Pattaya is my home. I have family here. I have 2 teenage boys and a wife, and we also have a small guest house, which is a family property, which houses my office in central Pattaya. And I've been here 5 years full time, but have a history that goes back to the region a lot longer than that, having lived here previously about 12, 13 years ago when my wife and my boys, we went back to Jersey, where I'm from, in the Channel Islands, and spent 12 years there, and then returned in 2015. And although I travel regionally a little bit for work, as I say, this is my home, and I have a house over on the dark side, office in town, and yeah, I like it. Yeah,
so the last time we had a Pattaya report was with Ricky, who actually is also a Jersey guy, and
really?
But back then, 4 weeks or whatever, 5 weeks ago, the beach was closed, the restaurants were closed, obviously the entertainment, there was a few Falang walking around the streets with no masks, but it was all pretty quiet. Has it changed? And if it has, how has it changed?
Yeah, I mean, opening the restaurants now is something which has happened here, the same as it has in Bangkok. So if you were to wander around near where our office is here in Soi Buakhao, you know, you will see Falang sat there enjoying a drink, enjoying some lunch, not too different from what it would be like under normal low season circumstances. Of course, although I'm usually tucked away in bed over in my house on the dark side by the time night falls, I would imagine that night time is probably quite a lot, you know, noticeably quieter because obviously the more lively entertainment areas like the beer bars and the go-go's and that type of thing, of course, are still closed. And like everybody else, I'm just hearing the same as you are, you know, about this phasing of opening and what's going to happen next. And I think, like we've all learned throughout this whole crisis, really, is you just got to take every day as it comes because you just don't know.
No, I noticed that there's some reports. Number one, they've got the beach chairs out on the beach with nobody there. So that's one thing. So the beach chairs are out with the social distancing. Yeah. But everything else is pretty hard to manage, that social distancing. I also saw that a lot of the beer bars were applying for restaurant licenses. So
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
They could open, and they were saying, they were also saying that, you know, even now that things have been relaxed, that the like little more local style, that they're actually predicting from the local base that they'll be back to about 80% within a month. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, I think so. Sure. Well, I guess, you know, the Bangkokians especially, you know, like everybody else, they would have been eager to get away. So once there was an opportunity to go, they came down. And although I haven't seen it firsthand because I haven't actually sort of been down to the beach, again, I'm hearing the same as you are, that a lot of those restaurants are busy, the seafood places. I'm not so sure the social distancing is really such an issue. And you know, to be honest, it's those guys that spend the money. You know, it's the Thai families eating the seafood that are spending a lot more than a lot of the foreign residents. So I think for certain businesses, then yes, there's definitely been an uplift, and long may it continue.
I think for Farang that the word pubs, we hear, you know, pubs are not open and da 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 da. Well, as we know, pubs, they are open, because the pubs that I go to, and Andrew went to one the other day, always serve food. So they have a food license, and they're like, how was it? Where did you go, Andrew? And was it just like back to normal, right?
We went to No Idea, which is actually, I met Craig there. So I went there, and then I went along to Scruffy Murphy's. And then after that, when I left there, it's funny because because it's so quiet, you feel as if it's like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So, but it's not. It's maybe about 10:30, and you get a taxi right away. There's no hassle waiting. Every taxi driver is so happy to get the business. But I walked.
Yeah, but was the pub busy? Was it busy?
At that time, they had their opening at 3 o'clock. I wasn't down there till a lot later. So they weren't busy, but they were busy enough. And what I did notice was that people were generally less caring. People were shaking hands and things like that, which, you know, it shows that people are thinking, well, because there's been no deaths and no increases in infections that we know of, that people are not taking it quite so seriously, which means the question is why we still got all these restrictions. But obviously the restrictions are there for a reason. More, I think, it's to keep people aware of the situation than anything else, and take.
Do you remember a couple of shows ago, we did the complacency? We were all frightened of people being complacent because there was zero, more or less, as Andrew said, of new cases and that. And I was like, oh, we mustn't get complacent. We mustn't get complacent. I'm now getting complacent.
There comes a point where you have to be, though, isn't there, really? Because, I mean, supposedly it's 28 days that there hasn't been an internal case in the whole country. Yes. Let alone Chonburi, you know, my province, and Pattaya, where I think you're looking at even longer than that, possibly 2 months since there was a case that was actually found within the province that infected somebody. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's complacent. I would just say it's recognizing where we are insofar as, you know, the threat, which is, in my opinion, very, very low.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I mean, when I walked through Soy Cowboy to go to Asok, the shortcut, before I was never jumping for the past year or so, but it was always a little bit busy. It was like it was really eerie, really, really eerie. You felt as if someone's going to jump out a bar and mug you or something like that, or rape you. Yeah.
So you walked back again, did you? You did a couple laps.
Yeah. I'm down twice.
Yeah. In the old days, you'd have to pay for that, Andrew.
No freebies.
So I guess, Pattaya, I mean, as you say, you live on the dark side, as most of the people I know that live down there do, which I think is probably the sensible side to live. But on the night side, I think about the girls that worked in these, I would say, thousands of bars, from beer bars to cocktail lounges to go-go bars. Where did they go? Did they just go back up country and that was it, no income, or are a few hanging around, or I don't know about that.
I mean, but obviously we've all seen the kind of impact that it's had with a lot of these girls that work in bars and massages. You know, I mentioned before about having a small guest house. My mother-in-law's got some rooms for rent as well next door to us. And, you know, those rooms are the type that are sort of 2,500, 3,000 baht a month. And a lot of her tenants are girls who work in the bars and the massage and that type of business. And, you know, these girls, you know, they live hand to mouth, you know, they live day to day. And, you know, of course, there's been a lot of people helping with food distribution. Again, my wife was involved in quite a lot of that. And, you know, it's been a very, very sorry affair, really, for those of them that stayed. I suppose those of them that could get away did get away. I was hearing, again, only probably the same as you've seen, on the media that certain groups like the Nightwish group that have got a lot of bars down in the Soy 6, certainly at the beginning of the crises, were really supporting their girls. I'm not sure to what extent that could actually continue. In that, you know, they were still paying wages, and they were still, you know, making sure they had something to eat. And I think there was even an opening for them to get to earn a little bit of money, which, as was always in this place, as you know, Thailand in general, but even more so, Pattaya, you get critics and you get people who support the idea. But I can't sort of, you know, categorically say whether that's still going on. But I think there were people that did their best to help. But, you know, if that's where they get their money from and they're not able to earn money doing what they do, then they simply haven't got any money.
We saw that in one of the newspaper reports, they're saying pawn shops, which Thais use a lot because very difficult to get bank loans or overdrafts on a private basis here. The pawn shops are the default way of getting cash. Hence, a lot of people will sell their gold. They buy gold and they'll pawn their gold. And they've dropped the interest rate to 0.25 baht per month. Percent for 5,000 baht or more of value. And the redemption period, because in the pawn shop you put it in and you can get it back out, they've extended from 5 to 8 months. So there's an avenue for people. This is government pawn shops. There's an avenue for people to get sort of liquidity without losing everything. But it's still a very, very sad situation. How are people going to survive? Because a lot of especially of the girls and people working in some of the bars, they're not going through the social security system, so they're not entitled to this 5,000 baht a month support. So they really are. It's very sad. It's hand to mouth. But what I do see in Bangkok and Pattaya is there really has been a community spirit. I think it's probably worldwide, not just Thailand, but there's been a community spirit. We see we talk about the Phalang giving food and supporting, but there's a whole lot of Thai organizations, temples, etc., who are helping with food. But you still have your bills to pay. That's the problem. You get your rent to pay. You've got all these other things to pay. Yeah? And how are they going to manage through that? And it's not finished because they're talking about, you know, hotels just now. They're offering great deals. So they're taking staff in. A lot of staff are contract staff. Yeah? So they've reduced the amount of staff that are working there. But now what we're hoping for is, as of July, that the hotels are expecting probably they're going to give discounts of up to 50%, so they can actually cover costs.
I know a few people that have been to Rayong, not Pattaya actually, but Rayong, and this is sort of the area we're covering. And they stayed at it for 4 nights, one night in one hotel and the other 2 nights in another hotel. And they were very different on how they regulated like social distancing, masks. Some up to the breakfast buffet, they had barriers, and the staff, you said, I want 2 sausages, they put 2 sausages on for you. And then he went to another one where it was completely relaxed and absolutely no, I was going to say intimidation, but that's the wrong word. No restrictions in the sense of COVID. So they also said the best way to book hotels is not through Agoda. That may have changed now from what Andrew said. Then he just got in touch with the hotels individually, and they were saying, come, and giving a good price. I don't know whether now, with the beaches open and everything, we can go back to booking hotels in the normal way. What do you think?
I think, you know, in general, I think there's been a bit of a drive, hasn't there, for domestic tourism. Of course, because that's the only tourism that's available at the moment, because there's no international tourism. I mean, somewhere like Pattaya, no doubt, you know, certainly a weekend. I believe we've got a long weekend coming up, haven't we, in a couple of weeks. I would imagine that a lot of the you know, the nicer hotels, the beachfront hotels that are offering deals will probably you know, be fairly high occupancy when it comes to you know, Thai tourists coming down for the long weekend. But you know, it's so huge, isn't it, not having the foreigners here, and the impact that has. That each hotel and each business that attracts tourists has to manage their situation as best they can. And what you said before about the whole, one hotel having almost like it was before, free reign, people could go and help themselves, and others in a very sort of restricted manner. That just seems to be the case with everything that goes on, I find, not just probably in Thailand, but probably all over the world since this pandemic started. Mm-hmm. I know that there was a few reports around here, again, just around the corner from where my office is here, an area called Tree Town, which is markets and bars and that type of thing. And there was all this talk about, that this place was flouting the regulations, and it was a very busy place to be, and people were drinking and listening to music and having fun. And then a couple of days later, I saw that they got a visit from the boys in brown, and perhaps that fun's been put to an end. But
what's sad is who made the complaints? Was it for people that, well, I've closed my business, why should they be open?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? And then it's always the way here, isn't it? Nothing's ever black and white, and you don't try and understand why. I mean, you can go to a restaurant. And one restaurant will have the X's on the chairs where one person's got to sit there, one's got to sit diagonally opposite them, and the next one won't. The next one will have, groups of 4 or 5 people that are clearly not from the same household that have met up there, sitting together, and nobody says anything. I saw that in Bangkok at M Quartier the other day, and I'm thinking, well, it's.
I think in this case, the COVID case I'm talking about, it's different from other times when you weren't allowed to sell alcohol because it was a special day or whatever. The police used to, let's just say, maybe profit from being able to go to these places and visit them, and they would stay open and come. I don't think there was much corruption with these places. I think most places, from what I've gleaned from interviews we've had here, is that it was sometimes left down to the proprietor of how he would interpret that, because there was not enough police to go to how many thousands of outlets to make sure the regulations were in place. So I think a lot of it went down to the landlord, the owner, or whatever, the management, of how they were going to interpret the regulations. And it wasn't enforced.
I think there's other things, like I heard with one restaurant that they were told that they couldn't be put on the TV or put on music. Now, what the hell has that got to do with COVID? That's entertainment. But I've got a few things, some funny ones. That now they're talking about opening up entertainment venues and pubs, as opposed to pub restaurants, as of July 1st. That's what they're talking about. Not finalised, still to be finally approved. But here's a few here. One is you must use disposable menus, and no menus that everyone can touch continually. Only eat and drinking are allowed. No singing or dancing. As an entertainment venue? Come on, give me a break.
That's why they're not open.
Wear face masks. Even singers.
But all of this, again, as you say, will no doubt become almost down to interpretation by the proprietor of that, and no doubt that you'll walk into an entertainment venue like we did on Saturday in Bangkok, and like I could probably do later on this evening if I wanted. And even though those rules are supposed to be in place, they're not being followed. I mean,
there must be some
crapshoot.
I think this is quite funny, because not to denigrate security, but there must be someone, possibly security, in charge of ensuring the rules are followed.
Manpower, though, bro. It's manpower. You just take, Pattaya for a good example. How many restaurants you got there? All those restaurants on the piers, the seafood restaurants, the beaches are now open. Are there vendors on the beach selling food now? I don't know. I've heard
I'll be honest, I haven't even been down to the beach to look. But again, I'd imagine they probably come and go. I would have thought of the weekend, the last weekend gone, you would have had it, because what I was hearing was, as I say, there was quite a number of people coming down from Bangkok.
Right. And that's your only tourist you're going to get for now.
Here's one for yourself. It says that no sort of competitions like dance contest or darts league. No use of pool tables, darts, game cabinets, or other similar items. Specific smoking areas where it applies must be socially distanced. Yeah. I mean, there's a certain point. I think we debated this last Friday when we were in No Idea. There's a certain point where there has to be common sense. The fact is, you cannot police it. Is more educating. But again, that sort of is against what we discussed before, that things are not specific, and they're trying to be very, very specific. But how can you have an entertainment venue like a dance hall or something? When I say dance hall,
We can't dance, yeah.
Dance hall.
It'd be like your teacher going around saying, "Now, don't get too close together now. There has to be a meter apart." I mean,
no tango here. Too close.
So there's certain things which
it takes one to tango.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but I think that what they're doing, and it makes sense, because there are so many businesses, people's lives, their entertainment side are affected by this. They put them all out there. It's like the 10 Commandments, but more or less use your own common sense over it, because we're not going to enforce it. So I think a big club that holds 1,000 people and have bands on and everything like that, and it's strictly just drinking and dancing, those are the ones which will be the last to open. That's what I see.
The problem is that the venue owners, they're concerned because obviously they're concerned with fines. And if something is written saying you cannot do it, but obviously you're going to do it, they're at risk of being fined, and basically someone can twist their arm, let's say. So when they say clear, there's clear and there's sensible, but that is the main concern. Speaking to restaurateurs and people like that, what can we, what can't we do? Because the guy can walk in and say, I see this photograph, right? That's a 50,000 baht fine.
I mean, it's there, and anyone that goes against that big list has the chance of being caught. I get that, but I have a friend who has one of those little, it's not a beer bar, it's just a little townhouse bar in Soy Post Office, somewhere around that area, where they have, a little horseshoe bar, and they have people sitting outside on the rattan chairs and that. And he serves food, always has served food, and he's open. And he said it's just, he only used to depend on regulars anyway, people that lived there. And so he says he is back to normal.
Yeah, I was just thinking that about my local bar, as you say, it's in a sort of big sort of car park area, and it's quite a spread out, and it's got a decent pool table and everything in there. And I noticed they're open as well, but I'm wondering whether, I suppose, as far as you say, getting caught goes, by not following some of the rules, by, maybe not being too close together, or groups of more than 5, then you could easily get away with that. But I suppose something like playing a game of pool, all it takes is for one of the guys to be a police or an enforcement officer of some sort to be driving past at the wrong time, sees someone playing pool and goes in and sort of has a word and causes a problem. But I think, when you hear a lot of this, again, debate, whether it's on Facebook or whatever, about, whether or not bars should open, and people are saying, there won't be any customers. But that's surely the choice of the proprietor. As you say, they have to adapt. They have to take those commandments and, make their choices based on that. And it may be that they are prepared to take on risk of getting a 10,000 baht fine or a 20,000 baht fine on the basis that they'll make more than 10,000 baht or 20,000 baht.
But just as a little thing about some positives, what I also see is that a lot of the social groups are getting together, golfing groups, bridge, all these different groups are now starting up. Also, I heard that the airport is in Pattaya is going to be developed, and they're looking at making that into a hub.
Well, the new road's open now, off the 7, you can cut straight through to Utapao now. I mean, that was they seem to be ready for quite some time, but again, I don't know the reasons why. But I understand it's only opened fairly recently. So yeah,
it will be Bangkok's third airport. I've seen people that are investing in retail there, and the big King Power there. So that's always, I mean, they only go to places that are going to work. They're not at Chiang Mai Airport, So Bangkok will have 3, but they're not open. I mean, I can't see. Let's look at the future then. Let's just, as we get into the end of this, we only know what we are told. The people that are telling us don't know either. So it's all very pie in the sky. But how do you see Pattaya over the next month, next 6 weeks? What restrictions do you see tourists coming back, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, the biggest thing, as I mentioned before, of course, is the foreign tourists. I can't see it being a possibility for foreign tourists to come freely for a few months, I wouldn't imagine. As you say, because the biggest thing is always going to be the international arrivals and the international airports, and that's going to be the last thing to open up. So I don't like to say. I mean, I'm definitely a half glass full man. When I look at things, and sometimes when I see this nonsense about nothing's going to be normal until the end of next year, I don't buy into that at all. But as you say, a lot of decisions, in my view, that have been made during the whole of this situation have not made a great deal of sense anyway. So therefore, trying to foresee or predict what decisions are going to be made in the future, I just don't even go there. As I say, I take every day as it comes. I mean, I will say this again on a positive. I will say, and of course, it's all down to people's personal situations. There are quite a number of bars that have taken the time to refurbish and obviously, do themselves up. I've got a friend of mine, actually, maybe give him a quick plug, Stuart, who's opened a bar called the Bali Club, just around the corner from me, which is an Indonesian restaurant. And, I was looking at the footage of the opening night there, and it seemed to be just like any other opening night on any other day of the week. And
Excellent.
He's done that, and he's publicising that on social media, so it's not like he's trying to do anything underhand and advertising the food. Again, his position was probably one where he could do that. Other people where, as you say, you've got a landlord who might not be willing to, be kind and let you delay with the rent. Lots of costs going on, perhaps loans from banks, and suddenly your income goes from X to 0 and your fixed costs remain the same. You're screwed. I mean, you're simply screwed.
I mean, they're thinking, like globally, 40% of all businesses might not ever reopen. And out of that 40%, if you were to take it as 100% of businesses not reopening, 80% of those would be the small business owners, which,
and that's got to be more, at least in some developed countries, you're getting government support. Of course, you're not getting government support here, even if some of the Thais are. If you're talking about a foreign-owned, again, I talked before about my small guest house with 6 rooms. I can just about ride that out. I've got a bit of debt against that, which needs paying, and normally, obviously, the cost that's generated from the guest house covers all the costs. But if I look down the road to somebody who might be in a similar position to me, where he's still got fixed costs going, but instead of having 6 rooms, he's got 36 rooms.
Yes.
I can't see how that is sustainable at all. And then of course the value of the property, reduces because of the situation that we're generally in. There'll be a few guys snapping up, as in all these situations, the guys that have got the money, there'll be a few guys going around and snapping up some real bargains because people are desperate.
One thing I'd like to say is we're all hoping that the government have been good with regards to retiring, people staying here, visas, 90-day reports and things like that. Hopefully they will see that it is appreciated and they can control things without that. So things like, insurance.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
For retirees, they're going to have 800,000 baht in the bank and things like that. Hopefully they'll sort of review that and keep some of the good stuff that they've done to help help the foreigners that have been here during this period, retain some of that. But yeah, that's all I just wanted.
Yeah, no, good point. No, you do come up with some good ones at the end, so I'll let you go on that one, Andrew.
We live in hope, don't we?
Listen, it's been great having you on, Craig, and welcome to the Bangkok ChitChat family. We have some good subscribers. If you're watching it for the first time, guys, then please subscribe, like, and share. That's what everybody says, but it really does help us to do more of this. And in fact, through the COVID, we've done more Zooming and talking to people from far away places like Pattaya. We've been to England, but it's opened up a whole new thing for us as well. So if it's the first time you're watching this, please subscribe, like, and share. And Craig, I mean, you're welcome back any time, and I think it'll be not far away that you're back on, because Pattaya is Pattaya, and at least we say it correctly. We don't say Pattaya, right?
Pattaya.
Oh, Pattaya and Pattaya. As soon as someone starts saying Pattaya, I stop listening to them, really.
Somewhere in the middle, I think.
I say Pattaya and I seem to get away with it. But anyway, it's been really, really great. Been interesting as well. And thank you so much for taking some time off to chat with us.
No, thanks for having me. As I say, hopefully it wasn't too wooden, my first attempt at doing this type of thing. But yeah. A
star is born.
Good luck, guys. Thanks again.
Okay, you're back on soon. Yeah, see you soon, mate.
See you later.
Cheers, guys.
Okay, all right.